All right, guys. Well, welcome back to our special delivery session of our topic of innovative reconcilers, and we've got somebody very, very near and dear to this engaged family. Yes. Everybody, say what's up to Mindy Starbird.
Hey.
So happy to have you. Thanks so much for taking your time to be with us. I know you had a schedule, so thanks for being with us, and we're just gonna dive right in if it's okay with you.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, so Mindy, can you tell us a little bit about your story and how long you've been here at Engage?
Sure. I have been at Engage, I think Easter will be 3 years.
Dang, wow.
Time flies.
3 years. Feels like it was last month. Yeah. And as soon as I started at Engage, I started getting plugged in right away. Going to basic training. I realized today that I actually went to an assist masterclass before I even went to basic training. And got baptized then in July and just kept going. Went into New Rules shortly after that, graduated from New Rules in December of 18, and was still serving at church, still serving now. And now I'm in Nehemiah, getting ready to graduate.
Hey.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Very cool.
It's been a quick, awesome ride. I do have to say that last year, so 2019, was probably the worst year of my life, and I'm 43. So there's a lot of years to compare it to.
Right. You don't say that lightly.
No. But Engage has been a place where even though I was saved when I was 10, I never really had a true relationship with God. Like I always looked at God as being this authoritative figure, like making rules and telling me what to do. And there was like no love in there, right? No safety, no security. And so because of that lack of a true understanding of what a relationship with God should look like, I was looking for those things that he was going to provide for me. I was looking for those things in humans.
Yeah, that's dope. We can both attest to that last year was hell on wheels for you, and it is amazing. It is amazing to me to see what God has done in your life. I am always floored by it. Can you talk a little bit about what you do now? What out of New Rules and Nehemiah, what came out of that? What did you birth? A business per se, basically.
No pun intended.
What did you birth out of this season of discovery, the season of pain, all this kind of stuff? What came out of it? Talk about what's going on.
So when I graduated from New Rules in December of 18, I found my purpose, which was fantastic. And my purpose was is to make memorable moments for people. And so I was super comfortable in that purpose and very happy that I was able to come to that purpose and knowing that it had nothing to do with a job, right? So I could make memorable moments.
That's great, Mindy.
Either in a career or while I'm at Publix talking to the person that's working at the deli.
That's great.
Or in talking with my children or, conversations I have with people at church. I could do that anywhere, right?
Yep.
So I just kept focusing on that purpose, walking into 2019. And then, things were taking like a downward spiral. And I kept still continuing to focus. And I think that's one of the things that's real important in my story is continuing to just push ahead, right? That when I look back at that year, there were so many times where I could have said, you know what? This really didn't start to get bad until I came to Engage. It's time for me to go. But I realized that was not the answer, right? The answer was to continue on and keep pressing into God.
Yeah.
And so right about June of 2019, one day while I was praying, God just put on my heart the word doula. And I immediately was like, no, no. And, I even said to myself, like, he's got that. This message is for someone else. That is not for me. God, your wires are crossed, which is not possible, right?
It's so funny.
Right.
And I because what I envisioned, what that looked like was like this ultra, like crunchy, holistic would be the more right word to use, but granola, like this person that comes in with like these essential oils and let me line up your chakras and like just all these new agey things that I was nowhere near about. Right. Yeah. And, so for the next couple of weeks, having random conversations with people, they would bring up the word doula.
Wow.
And I would get angry. Why are you saying that to me? It was my response. I don't know. I just felt like it's something I needed to tell you. And so
like telling you that this is what you should do, or they just mention it?
Just mentioning it. Oh, by the way, did you know I had a doula? No. Why are we even
talking about
yes,
that?
What? And these were non-Christian folks that were having these conversations with me. And so then my head kind of cocked like, okay, God, all right, I see you. I see what you're doing. So I thought, well, let me just do some research about this, right, and see what it is. So upon doing my research, I found that there was a training class that was going to be starting in a couple weeks, less than 5 miles from my home.
Of course.
So I signed up for the class. And as soon as I registered for the class, the enemy really started hitting hard on me, even harder than he already was during that time. And there were instances where I thought I was going to have to cancel going to the class. I wasn't going to be able to make it. I ended up going. Even the day that the class started, I pulled into the parking lot and sat in my car, and I thought, I'm not going. And at that time, the enemy was saying things like, you're not smart enough to do this. Who do you think you are? You can't go into this space and try to help people. And I got out of my car anyways, and I did the training for a whole week. And it was amazing. It was amazing. And it gave me the opportunity while we were doing class introductions to talk about why I was there. Because of God. And I talked about new rules and how, I had found my purpose and not something that I had planned on sharing at all in that space. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, and so now what's the culmination of all that work?
Yeah.
What do you?
So I started, after doing the class, life still continued to be rough for 2019. And I started my own business, taking care of private clients, being their doula, and then the pandemic hit. So that kind of put the kibosh on all of that because doulas were not allowed in hospital settings, and people really weren't comfortable, even if they were having a home birth, not comfortable having someone else in their home, right? So there was quite a lull there in 2020. And in September, I had decided to start volunteering because I wasn't really seeing private clients. I still wanted to continue doing this because I knew God had called me to it, not because I always wanted to.
Say that. Hey.
So, and he had been speaking on my heart, during the pandemic about specifically working with people who could not afford to have a doula. So doula services are not cheap, and typically insurances do not pay for them. And my concern was always, okay, if you want me to work with this population of people, how am I going to make money? Right. And, I had to have a real heart to heart with God. Like, I'm afraid of what you're asking me to do. And he told me that if you truly believe that I have called you to this and this is your purpose, why would I not also meet your needs? Okay.
Right.
Okay, God. Yeah. So since September, I have been working with a local pregnancy center here in town, and I am their volunteer doula. I no longer seek any private clients. I do not have any private pay clients. So all the work I do at the center is volunteer, all of it.
Wow.
So it's become important to me because I feel that, there's enough doulas out there for private pay clients. But there's not enough doulas out there for people that want them and cannot afford them.
Awesome.
Yeah, I love that. I love also just that your passions also grew with your obedience to God. It's like it wasn't just like okay, I'm super passionate about it, and so it's going to be really easy for me to be obedient to God because I finally understand my purpose, and all this is super easily unfolding. It's like, okay, I understand my purpose, and this fits a lot of different things, and God is calling me to this, but because I know God and I trust him and he's brought me this far, I'm going to keep trusting him and keep taking one step after the other in obedience, and how he's grown your passion and still provided and given you the ability to create moments for women who might not otherwise have them is incredible. What do you think is this might have been something you already touched on, but what do you think is the hardest part about being a doula for you?
The obvious answer is the schedule.
Okay. Unpredictability.
Yeah. I had to tell my kids that, babies are born at night. They're not just born from 8 to 5. So, they come at any day and any time. So, having to be ready and kind of plan things in advance for those on-call times. I actually have a client at the hospital right now.
No kidding.
Yes. But it's not time for me to go meet her yet. So, I would say the unpredictability, because I'm such like a regimented person and I abide by schedules and I plan everything out, that this has caused me to sit in that uncomfortable space of unpredictability. I would say the other part of it too is I have struggled my entire life with codependency. And so working with women who are coming from situations that maybe are not ideal, right? Many times these are unplanned pregnancies, or they are coming from a place of trauma, or there are heavy generational curses on their family that are affecting their pregnancy. That I could, if I didn't really press into not being codependent, this could be so much. I could be doing so much codependent behavior, right? Like, oh, well, let me fix this for you, and let me help you with this, and let me help you with this.
Right.
But because I keep pressing into God and continuing to be obedient, that codependency is not there. I have a very clear lane. And so, can I educate you on this particular topic about birth? Yes. Can I help you find housing? Probably not. That's not my lane, but I know someone who it is their lane, and I can point you in that direction.
That's awesome. Great.
Yeah, I can't tell. It's happened twice, and she doesn't know this, but like we're Mindy's in the Nehemiah Institute, and we're currently in the time of the class where we're talking about human purpose development, and she'll text me and she'll say, "I'm so sorry, I can't come tonight." And basically she's saying, I got to go do my purpose work, and so I'm going to miss class. And I my face lights up. She's like, I can't come to class, and I got to put a woman at the hospital. I'm thinking, this is what what God put you on earth to do, and it's phenomenal. What do you think is how do you think you're impacting people? And not just them maybe, but even generations from now? What do you think the impact of what you're doing is on people?
I think that I have to go back to like what Pastor Adrian has said recently about you're probably not going to change the world, right? But you can change the space that you're currently in. And so I think of Tallahassee, right? And how racially divided we are as a city, and how that impacts so many facets of life. But this one facet we might not think of very much, right? So when I first got trained to be a doula, I didn't know that there was such a high mortality rate specifically in Black women when it comes to childbirth. And through this whole process, just educating myself about it and thinking about, okay, how can I make a difference in this work? It's my meaningful work in the earth.
Yeah.
What can I do to change that? And so looking at Black women and the things that they're going through, and how there's such a big disparity between, what they're experiencing and white women are experiencing. I mean, even if you look at like, Black women are 21% more likely to die of heart disease than white women, 70% more likely to die of cervical cancer than white women. But when it comes to childbirth and pregnancy, they are 243% more likely to die than white women.
Wow.
And there's so many things that, are involved in that, whether it's lack of education when it comes to childbirth and pregnancy, when it comes to lack of support, maybe from their immediate family or their partner. And also we know that there's racial bias, in pain management and treatment when it comes to Black women. And so I'm hoping that me sharing that space with them, because really that's what I'm doing. I'm sharing it. I'm not taking over, right? Not taking up all the space in the room like we've talked about before. Just being that support that hopefully I can at some point with the people that I'm encountering change those stories, right? So that maybe the client that I have, her mother has such trauma associated with her personal birth story or stories. And she's kind of like pushing that onto her daughter, right? That I can change that. So just sitting and holding someone's hand and feeding them ice chips in a moment where they feel weak, that can change that around completely.
Man, that's awesome.
Gosh. It's so, God, I love listening to you talk about this because you can see like the passion in it and the depth of it and the meaning that it has, even. And I feel like what so many people would say are like the quote unquote small things, but how much it changes for each individual person.
That's great.
I have a couple friends who used to talk about the power of stopping for the one. Because that's literally what Jesus did, right? He stopped for the one, he stopped for the woman at the well, it changed the whole city. You stop for one woman in the birthing process and it changes her generational impact, the whole future of the next generations. I think that's so significant. And I feel like we're sitting here listening to you talk about how you're shaping culture. And so I feel silly to ask the next question, but we're going to ask it anyway, just for clarity's sake. Would you, having been almost done with the Nehemiah Institute and having done new rules and all these things, would you say that you are, with confidence, an innovative reconciler?
Yes, I would. I would. That didn't sound very confident, but I think that the one key thing, that's so important to this whole story that many people don't know is that this whole work that I'm doing, it's crazy. And it's crazy that I am supporting women in their pregnancies and birth because I myself have never given birth. So I said I have children, but my children are adopted. And so that was part of that fight that I was doing in the beginning, right? How can this be? God, I see, this is funny. I was never able to get pregnant, but now you want me to support people who are doing something that I was never able to do. And Pastor Adrian said before, right? In your greatest pain comes your purpose. Holy cow. Holy cow. And now
that would have been a good point to actually say the full word. I wouldn't have blamed you if you just said holy. That's amazing. Amazing.
That's the mind blown emoji right there. Is that that I'm able to do this without ever having experienced that before. And I tell my clients that, they know from the jump, this is not something that I've gone through. And I hope you're okay with that, because maybe some people are not okay with it. And at the end of it, no one ever says, wow, I would have never have known, or, you didn't support me in the way that you should have because you haven't experienced this yourself. It's never that. It's always, you were awesome. And this was so great. And I'm like, well, I was, but you were awesome. So when I think about, he has innovatively reconciled me in that way.
Yeah.
Because it's just crazy, right? You're doing something for people that you've never done yourself.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense,
Yeah.
right? I think that yes, I am. One reason because nobody else in town is doing this. And number two, I think it's really going to change those stories, you know, and it might make, maybe one of my clients one day will start supporting other women, you know, who knows what just doing, you know, supporting women during this one time could do for those clients and what they might go out and do. And it also gives me the opportunity to ask people to come to church. It gives me the opportunity to pray for clients while we're meeting and in that birthing space. I recently had a birth where the family was from Bangladesh and they were Muslim. And so they had some needs in that birthing space that most people don't, like not having men in the room and things like that. And so me holding that space with them, I was able to advocate for them and make sure that those things were done. Even when the father wanted to do the call for prayer while holding his son, making sure that no one else entered the room. And so although they are not Jesus followers, me as a Jesus follower, I was still able to hold that space for them.
That's beautiful.
And that's the thing is like, man, if you're listening to this and like, if you don't believe that had a tremendous impact on that family,
absolutely,
to be in what they probably still consider a Christian nation, and have someone hold that space for them, then you are lost your mind if you don't think that significantly impacted them. You can look, well, they didn't come to Jesus, man. That's beside the point. I mean, this idea of holding space and causing human flourishing is awesome. Man, I want to thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
That was amazing. It's more amazing because we you know, it's different from, you know, interviewing somebody that you don't know in person. We've all like walked with Mindy and it's just been awesome. Thank you so much for what you add to not just our church, but what you're adding to this city and to women's lives. It is awesome. So thank you so much for being here. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the pod. Remember, you can find us on YouTube. You can actually watch us live in this. And as we go, I just want to end with something that Mindy said that you probably missed. That is, when you find out what your purpose is, you can do that anywhere.
That's so good.
That was worth the price of admission. Lots of us get stuck on the idea of having found the right job, and you need to listen to what she is saying. No matter what your purpose is, you can do that from anywhere, and that is awesome. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time on Street Theology.